fans, wherever you may be. Welcome back for another edition of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. Join your host, Bill Alvstad, and co-host, sports writer and football analyst Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hey Seahawks fans, welcome back to another edition of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers. Welcome in, Keith. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's officially a weekend day for me. We've got, no work tomorrow. I am ready for a 3-day weekend.
Nice. Yeah, we got a big game coming up. It's not in this country though.
It's weird. It's early. It's 6:30 a.m. local time here, and I think it's 5:30 local time for you. It's early in the morning.
Yeah, it's it is what it is. I'm gonna be up. I gotta watch it live. I can't work off a DVR. I don't think anyway, unless I just oversleep and sleep in or whatever. But I'm usually up early anyway. I'm kind of excited for this game. Seahawks are 6-3 facing the 4 and whatever Bucks 4-5, and I just think that we're the better team. I mean, they have a pretty level defense with us. I have to admit, there's a couple areas of deficiency with them, particularly against the run, but they've got a great pass rush. Their linebackers are really decent. Their secondary's really good. So those are all good matchups for them. Mm-hmm. On the other side, though, we're moving the ball, it looks like, against anybody in any defense at this point in the season. Early on, I think we struggled a little bit with that, especially second half against the Broncos, who end up having the best defense in the NFL. And then the 49ers, we struggled as well. But everything else has been going really well. And then on the other side of the ball, Keith, our defense is legit. I mean, since, the last 4 weeks, we're a top 5 defense. Mm-hmm. And overall, we're closing ranks. Even, we've talked about this on previous shows, going from ranked, DVOA rankings of 31st in the NFL all the way up to, top 10. And it's pretty cool to watch.
Yeah. I mean, you've got, with this, in this matchup, you really look at it. The more I go through and I pour through the stats, the more I'm just surprised at how bad Tampa's offense has been. They're the worst rushing team in the NFL.
Which is crazy. Fournette, I love Fournette, but
yeah, and it's not even close. It's 0.4 yards per carry less than the second worst. Yeah, and when it comes to yards per pass attempt, they're only 5th from the bottom. I mean, they're a bottom. They're the worst rushing team and a bottom 5 passing team, in terms of yards per play. Now, Tom Brady's put up a lot of yards, and I think he's got he's second in the league in passing yards, but it's taken a lot of plays to get him there because he's only throwing for 6.4 yards per attempt.
Yeah, and they've only scored more than 22 points one time this season, and that was the game that they lost. They've scored fewer than 20 points 5 times. Since starting 2-0, they're 2-5, and despite that, they're still the first place team in their own division. But at 4-5 overall, it's crazy to me that they're even favored in this game. And the only thing that I can think of is the Tom Brady effect and the Geno Smith effect. It's like Tom Brady's got this long history of being excellent, even though he's diminished. He still gets the ball out really, really well and so forth. And then Geno Smith just doesn't have the history to back up the closer, the closing games, all that kind of stuff. But when you take a look at both teams, Seattle's just a better team. And so I'm counting on, coming away with the victory here, but you still got to play the game, and it's on the road in a big way, all the way overseas in Munich, Germany. Time change is crazy. But all things being equal, I think that, statistically anyway, we should be at an advantage in this game.
I would think so. I mean, you look at, as you said, the defenses are really comparable. These are two good defensive teams.
Yeah, they don't play the run as well as they should for their ranking overall, but everything else they do really well. In fact, they get to the passer better than Seattle does. Seattle has 19 sacks over the last 4 weeks, and are 27 overall. And I think that's like the fifth most sacks or third most sacks in the NFL. Tampa's even better. They've got 29 overall.
They're the two teams are third and fourth in the NFL in sacks. And this is going to be one of those games where I think it's going to be low scoring, and you're going to see, because both these defenses are good, but there's no way that Tampa's offense can keep up with Seattle's. They're just statistically, they're just bad. They're just genuinely not a good team.
Yeah. It was interesting. And, they came back. In fact, I thought it was over. I thought the Rams won that game actually, in the last meeting and, this last weekend. So I turned the game off and I was like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. The Bucs have got, no timeouts, less than a minute to go. Tom Brady's going to get the ball, but it's just too much to ask. Their offense is so poor. And sure enough, they came back and scored and beat the Rams, which was great for us in our own division. But I don't look at that as like a normal thing for them. This is, if Seahawks get up early and get their run game going and finish out like they've done the last 4 weeks, this is a double-digit win opportunity for Seattle again. And I fully expect that, to be completely honest. The team's playing with a lot of confidence. We're playing with a lot of competence. The coaching staff's doing a great job getting these guys ready. I don't imagine this game's going to be any different.
Agreed. It's just one of the things we don't know is, how does this trip to Germany change things? And the fact that yes, it's affecting both teams, but it is going to have an effect. And we don't know what that's going to be. Is it going to be because of the time change and whatever, that everyone's still asleep and it's a sloppy game? Or, our team's going to be focused. They want to get this game in, and then get out of there and come home. Like, where is it? Traveling to Germany is new. This is like the first NFL game that's been in Germany. So we don't really know. And that is the one thing that gives me pause, as far as like, just saying, hey, the Seahawks are the better team and are going to be able to, walk away with this. Cause I just don't know what this trip to Germany is going to do as far as affecting the game.
Yeah. The Seahawks took off yesterday, landed, already practiced. They are actually arriving, in Munich, going to be in Munich 24 hours before the Buccaneers do. Buccaneers have 5.5 hours less travel time, 3 hours clock difference that Seattle needs to make up. And so arriving a little early, 24 hours early, I think really does help the Seahawks just kind of mentally check into European time over there and all that kind of stuff, just so they're well rested, so that's not a factor on Sunday. By the time the game comes along, I understand Pete's taking them bowling tonight to kind of keep them up later in the evening over there to make sure they stay up so they can start to get onto that clock too. So while they're having fun, there's some method to the madness as well. So let's talk about players and advantages, Keith. So let's start with Seattle's offense against Tampa Bay's defense. We already talked about the opportunities in the run game against Tampa's defense, but what about in the pass game? What are you expecting out of Tampa? How are they going to defend Seattle's diverse attack?
Well, I think that is actually, you said the thing right there. It's the diversity of this attack that is going to create problems, because, the Seahawks have two legit receivers. Tampa's got corners. They can do that. But you take away the receivers by keeping your safeties back, and Ken Walker is going to eat you alive. Or you're going to get Seattle's going to get their tight ends involved because they've got 3 really good ones. To me, it really comes down to Tampa's defense is good enough. They get to kind of decide what they're going to take away, and Seattle has to recognize what that is and exploit the openings that are created in the other parts of it. And Geno Smith has been great about that so far this season. I see no reason to think that they won't do that again. So Seattle's attack is it's diverse. It's like the right word for it. They can attack you in so many different ways.
So what do you think the factor would be that they just faced the Los Angeles Rams, and essentially Sean McVay is running, they've got the same offense. They're trying to do the same things. They're trying to scheme it up in the same way, run plays, set that thing up in the run game, running plays out of the same formations and so forth. Is that any advantage to Tampa at all now that they've seen a lot of film on Geno Smith? Are they going to have any game plan there? We haven't seen any other defense be effective against him, but this is a pretty decent defense.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that. So what they're going to be able to do is kind of look at, okay, what worked, what didn't work. Let's throw out what didn't work. Let's double down on what did, and basically
they were effective.
Stuff.
They were effective on limiting the Rams. There's no question about that.
But everybody's been effective at limiting the Rams this year. Their offense has struggled.
True. That's very true.
I mean,
the run game's been almost non-existent, and I don't know what's going on with
their offensive line's bad. And you look at, a lot of it with Stafford is other than Cooper Kupp, who's he throwing to? You and I both liked Robinson as a signing and thought, wow, this guy's gonna take off there, and he has disappointed just across the board.
He
has not been the guy that everyone thought he was going to be. So
we thought losing Odell Beckham, but getting Allen was a swap, and it turns out not so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so Seattle is a more diverse offense. It's a more talented offense. They've got significantly better offensive line play than the Rams. And so the way that Seattle is going to attack you is different, even if it's the same scheme. So the cues can be kind of the same, the reads that you're making. If you're a linebacker and the cues that you're getting as far as, so you can read the play and attack and do the right thing. Some of those things are the same, but the emphasis is going to be different because Seattle's a much better running team, and the Rams simply don't have a guy with Ken Walker's speed. So you don't, Akers is a different kind of runner. He's more of a power guy between the tackles, guy where Walker can bounce things. You have to stay disciplined, or he's going to bounce it outside and be gone. So. It is a little different in terms of playing it, even if the scheme is the same, just simply because the personnel is different.
Well, and you mentioned earlier the advantage we have at tight end. I think that's really one of the keys on offense. This, along with Ken Walker, and then Lockett and Metcalf. I don't want to discount those guys. They've got some good corners and safeties playing against them. The matchups are, I would think, somewhat even there, but. The way that Geno has been reading defenses, making the right decisions, changing the line calls, etc. He's just been an excellent quarterback. And I think that's going to continue in this game. And then with the tight ends, that really does present a challenge for Tampa Bay. It's almost just too much. It's like you've got to pick something. And you've got to double up Metcalf. If you're going to double up Metcalf, you're going to leave a slot receiver open. You're going to leave a tight end open in single coverage against a linebacker. So there's going to be some mismatches there. And can Seattle take advantage of that? And then receiving the ball out of the backfield is another thing, another option as well. Now, Tampa is the best defense in the NFL in defending passes to running backs, but Ken Walker's a special guy. And if there's anybody that can get a running back into open space, it's Ken Waldron, and I would imagine they're going to try to do that.
Yeah, and I would agree. And I mean, you said it. Like if you're going to put a safety and create safety help on DK Metcalf, then who are you leaving open? And if you're going to put safety help on Tyler Lockett, okay, now you're leaving everybody open, because now, if you're double teaming both those guys, everyone else is at best in single coverage, or you're sitting in a soft zone because you don't have enough guys. And Seattle's going to pick that apart. So it really comes down to it's a kind of a pick your poison thing for Tampa. It's just Seattle's offense is so much better than we expected it to be, because you take away one player and there's other weapons that are there. And I think that's one of the things that when you look at Tampa's offense, that's kind of what they don't have. I mean, they've got a couple good receivers. Evans is fantastic on the outside.
Yeah, he is fantastic, and I'm very interested to see that matchup.
Yeah, him against Tariq Woolen's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. But outside of that, I mean, there's not a lot of options, and if you can take away Evans, that offense struggles.
Yeah, Mike really Evans is probably the closest thing to DK Metcalf that Tariq Woolen's going to see this year, and
except for DK Metcalf every day in practice.
Right. So he shut down. He was very effective in covering Hopkins in this last game, but it's a different type of receiver here with Mike Evans. I'm interested in seeing the challenge, because if Tariq Woolen comes out of this game and looks decent against Mike Evans, there's really nothing to stop or slow down Tariq Woolen's ascension as a cornerback in this league, because if he can cover a guy like Hopkins, and he's already shown he can cover Sutton earlier, and then Mike Evans, a real physical, tall wide receiver, man, I'm really looking forward to that matchup. And then Tom Brady's still getting the ball out. So I think that they're going to be effective in limiting Seattle's pass rush. I'd mentioned the fact that we had 19 sacks in the last 4 weeks. Uchenna Nwasu's been going off. So have others. So it'll be interesting for me to see if Seattle and Clint Hurt dial up some blitzes in this game, or try to disrupt timing at all, or man up on some of their receivers, their bigger receivers, to kind of figure out a way to stop some of those timing routes. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's part of it. Is getting guys up in people's faces is great, but you just got to make sure that you're not letting them get behind you if they get a release. But Seattle's speed at corner, I think, is helpful. I'm not actually that worried about. I mean, yeah, you don't expect a lot of throws that are more than 10 yards down the field, and so because Tom Brady doesn't do that well anymore. And so go ahead and bring your corners up, jam the receivers, make it hard for them to get into that rhythm, because they're not going to beat you over the top. I mean, if he throws it up, Evans can go get it as good as anyone, right? But he's throwing 50-50 balls, and you've got Tariq Woolen and all of his size and ball hawking ability, right there with him. So that's a huge risk. I was looking at, kind of the next gen stats stuff, and, they have the, a quarterback's completion percentage, but then there's also the expected completion percentage based on pressure, how close the defensive players are to the quarterback, how much separation the receiver has, all of that. And Geno Smith is the best in the NFL at completing more passes than is expected. He's like 7.5% above expected. Tom Brady is like negative 2.5%, meaning that there's gimmies that he's not completing.
Yeah. And consequently, that's really affected them on like third down conversions. They're Seattle's punting the ball like seventh in the NFL, 31% of their drives. The Bucs are punting on 44% of their drives. The Seahawks are 8th in EPA, which you kind of alluded to just now. The Bucs are 21st. There's some clear advantages here, and I think if Seattle just plays their game, comes out and really just kind of focuses, I really do believe that our offense can probably score on the Bucks, probably a season high against the Bucks. In the 27 to 30 range, I think. And if we do, it's over because the Bucks just can't score. They're not going to score more than 20. They're just not against our defense.
No.
Yeah. And turnovers are a possibility here. Turning the ball over is a strong possibility. Seattle is just doing a tremendous job with turnovers this year. Forced fumbles. We have 15 forced fumbles. 9 of those are recovered. 5 interceptions. We're one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the NFL to generate turnovers. And I think
we'll
that's
say
a factor.
that as far as, Kobe Bryant and the defense, as far as forcing fumbles, that's a big thing. And I'm here for it. Like, that's going to be awesome if they can keep that up all season. I'm loving it. But I will say though, Brady's only got 1 pick. He may not be playing that great of football, and he's not getting the ball downfield, and he's really struggling. He's showing his age quite a bit, but he's at least being smart with the football. He's not taking chances with it. He's got 1 pick on the season, and that, this far into the season, that's kind of a big deal. So, if you're counting on turnovers, like, it may be hard to get them because it's easier to get interceptions typically than it is for fumbles, because once the ball comes out and it hits the ground, it can bounce in any direction it wants to. And, Brady does make that part hard.
Yeah, he does. And he gets the ball out in 2.5 seconds. And he's always been excellent at that. That's probably one of the biggest pet peeves I think people have against him as, fans from other teams, is they just can't get to him. And it depends really on sticky coverage. I think we have the cornerbacks and the defensive backs in this scheme to be able to stick with their wide receivers. And if we can, I think our pass rush can get to Tom Brady. But it'll be very interesting to see that dynamic as well.
Yeah. So you've been talking about the Seahawks defense and all the sacks and stuff that they've been getting. What I didn't realize is over these last 4 games, they have only blitzed 12 times total.
Yeah.
In 4 games. And I'm like, that has been a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, a lot of sacks, a lot of, screwing things up, and they're doing it with their front 4. They really are. And
which is a pillar of what Pete Carroll wants to be able to do.
Yeah. So the fact that they can get after the quarterback while dropping their linebackers back into coverage. Now, when you're playing a 3-4, 1 linebacker gets to come every play, and it's not considered a blitz because you've only got 3 linemen. But still, they're dropping 3 linebackers into coverage. Yeah, they're rushing 4, or they're dropping 2 linebackers and they've got an extra defensive back in there, that kind of thing. But they're getting home without having to blitz, and it makes it tough because you can.
And we haven't really seen that here in Seattle for probably 7 years.
Yeah, it's been quite a rush slog as far as trying to get pressure on quarterbacks, but they can do it now. And they're doing it really well. And just being able to do that, you can, have your outside linebackers, if they're not coming, to kind of sit in that area where a slant would be thrown and take that passing lane away. Because if Brady sees something and he wants to make those, 2.5 step drop and ball out in 2 seconds, and then you've got your linebacker standing right where he wants to throw the ball, he's going to have to pull it down and, maybe eat a sack here and there. And the fact that they don't have to blitz to get pressure opens up a lot of things that this team can do. And it's part of why this defense has been so good the last 4 games.
Well, I know Tampa's been really poor at running the ball, but I can guarantee you Pete Carroll's still going to want to start the game off with stopping the run. That's going to be a focus. They want to make sure they take care of one thing really well up front. And then after they get to be able to dictate terms, that's when you can kind of turn things up a little bit. So talk to me a little bit about the matchups you're looking forward to seeing. I know you're looking forward to watching this game. This team is so fun to watch right now. I get that. But when you get down into the nuts and bolts, Keith, what are you looking for Seattle to take advantage, and where do you think they're most vulnerable?
Well, one of the, you asked for the matchups, like we already talked about it, that Mike Evans and Tariq Woolen matchup is like, it's like one of those
must see
that,
TV. Yeah.
I mean, it's been, that star on the calendar now for about a month that I've been waiting for this game, because Woolen just continues to amaze at his play. But honestly, Evans might be the best receiver he's faced this year. And, it's strength on strength. It's going to be fun. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. But as far as vulnerability, the interior of Seattle's line has kind of, it's been up and down. And I'm a little worried about, because we're talking about the Seahawks defense and its ability to get pressure and all of that. Tampa's right there too. And Seattle's interior of the offensive line has struggled at times. And I know, with Haynes and Jackson splitting time, and Blythe he's been great at the mental parts of being center, but he gets run over sometimes. There can be some problems for Geno where they are getting pressure right in his face and making it hard. And
one of the guys to be able to do that is Vita VA. He's just and Akeem Hicks is no slouch in there as well. And they've got a couple good linebackers that like to blitz occasionally as well.
Mm-hmm.
Bowles likes to send those guys. So
and so that's kind of where my concern is it's more of that. It's more of if they can disrupt Geno by getting right up in his face, the interior of the line, I think it can really discombobulate the offense a little bit and get them off track. We saw that this last week in Arizona for the first, 2.5 quarters. About halfway through the third quarter, the Seahawks offense wasn't doing much. And then they woke up. And once they woke up, it was 3 straight scoring drives. Boom, 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 and the game was over. But it was a slog there for a bit. And a lot of it was because they were getting pressure on Geno Smith, and they were
you nailed it
up the gut.
Yeah, you nailed it. Conversely, on the other side, I'm interested in the matchup between Uchenna Nwasu and Tristan Wirfs, their right tackle. One of the best in the league, if not the best right tackle in the league, or for that matter, any tackle. His pass rush win rate is just off the charts. He doesn't allow pressures. He hasn't allowed a sack this season. Can Uchenna Nwasu disrupt timing? A. B. Can he get to the quarterback? That'll be an interesting.
Part of that also is how quickly Brady gets the ball out of his hand. I mean, is he the best ever at getting the ball out quickly?
There's no question.
I think he is. And I mean, there's been better players at, downfield accuracy and whatever you want to scout talk up quarterbacks, but I don't think there's been anyone better that I've ever seen at getting the ball out quick. And that makes it really hard on pass rushers, because if you don't win on your first step, you're not getting there. And that makes it hard. It's going to be up to the linebackers and defensive back to make it so that Brady has to hold on to the ball. Make him keep the ball an extra second longer than he wants to, because that's when you give your pass rushers a chance.
Yeah. And those linemen are used to it now. So those linemen are used to only having to hold their blocks for 2.5, 3 seconds, and then they kind of relax a little bit. If Seattle can play great defense on the back end, it could be interesting for our guys, come away with 4 or 5 sacks. That would be, certainly impact the game, and something that they're not used to. So any other advantages that Seattle has that are just kind of really clear stand out to you?
Honestly, I think while the Tampa's right tackle that you mentioned is phenomenal, the rest of their line's not. And I just look at like Poona Ford right in the middle of Seattle's defense, is going to be disruptive and to any kind of running game that Tampa might want to try and get going, even though they haven't been able to get them going yet this year. Fournette's going to have a hard time getting to the line of scrimmage because the Seahawks have three guys, Poona Ford, Shelby Harris, and Quentin Jefferson, that are really good at getting into gaps and getting, making running backs have to, they did to adjust where they are, like, because the gap where they want to run is got a defensive player standing in it. And, that I see as just a big advantage. Like it's going to be a situation where Seattle's going to be able to dictate, hey, you aren't going to run the ball, so you better just plan on throwing it every down. And then once you made it one-dimensional, now you bring in pass rushers. Now you get, you start bringing in some more exotic blitzes. If you want to, blitz here and there, you can switch up your coverages, try and get Brady into making some mistakes. And when you have the ability to do what Seattle's defense has done for the last month, you can make it really, really hard, even on good quarterbacks.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they do any of that in the first half. I think the first half you play it pretty straight, vanilla. The Buccaneers seem to be getting off the field on their own anyway. They're making mistakes. They're not able to complete passes on third down. Fournette's not able to gain yards on first and second down. And so it's just been a struggle for them. They're punting, is they're punting seventh most in the NFL. And so it's just going to be one of those games where I think it's an attrition type of a thing, at least in the first half. Feel it out, see if Seattle can score some points. So let's get down to it, Keith. What are you expecting in the game? And a win, a loss, a draw, and a point differential.
Well, I mean, I am expecting a Seattle win. I'm expecting this to be one of those things where they jump out in front, they run the ball, they shorten the game, they make Tampa have to throw it a lot. They're going to move the ball. Tampa's going to probably move the ball a little bit, put up some yards, but have a hard time getting into the end zone and scoring points. And it's going to end up being one of those games where Seattle's scoring touchdowns, Tampa's kicking field goals, and they just can't keep up, even with it not being a super high scoring game. And so I'm looking at this being like 27-23, where but some of those points coming for Tampa after the game feels like it's over.
Yeah, I think one of the keys to this game is going to be turnovers, and I think it's going to come more on the Seattle side. Can Seattle avoid turning the ball over? Tampa's got a decent defense. This is probably one of the top three defenses we face, maybe top two all year. I think our offense is in better shape now in the way that we can attack those type of defenses. I think what we would like to do is just spread them out as much as we can and get them horizontal so that we can take advantage of some shots with Gino and then with our tight ends underneath and can open up running lanes for Ken Walker. On the other side, I just don't see Tampa being able to score very much. I think we're going to kind of operate this thing in a similar way that we did to the Cardinals, in that we want to shut them down, shut down their run game, make them one-dimensional, like you said, force 3 and outs, and give our offense more opportunities. Yeah. I don't see them scoring much in this game. Like you said, field goals, maybe a touchdown. So I'm thinking 17-ish. I mean, you take a look at all their games where they haven't scored 20 points, and we're one of the better defenses they're going to face. And on the other side, I think we can score against anybody right now. And so it's just a matter of time. It might take us a while to get into it, but eventually we're going to score those points. And I'm thinking 20, you said 27. I'm right in there too. So I'm thinking 27-17. Seahawks.
Well, you get to 17 with 2 touchdowns and a field goal. So maybe it should be 16.
Okay. 16, 13, yeah, something in there.
3 field goals and a touchdown. Yeah. I said 23 because I do think that, Evans and Brady at some point they're going to get some garbage time yards and points. And so they're going to be able to do some of that. But if the game's decided, if Seattle's up by, 2+ scores with 4 minutes left, the game's over. And it doesn't matter if Brady leads a desperation drive and gets some points in there. Like those garbage time yards and points they don't move the needle.
So does that indicate that you're feeling like this is going to be one of those games that is a dominant game by Seattle?
It kind of feels like it is. Like it's going to feel, honestly, the Arizona game is kind of a blueprint for what I'm expecting. It's kind of a low scoring slog in the first half. And in the second half, Seattle's offense starts to get stuff rolling and Tampa can't keep up and Seattle just runs away with it. The defenses are both good. So I kind of expect the first half to be low scoring, 7-10 is what it was against Arizona. I could see it being, 10-6 at that point at halftime. And then, Seattle gets, scores on 3 of 4 drives in the third quarter, early in the fourth, and the game is out of hand.
Let me ask you this. If this ends up being low scoring, let's just say that Seattle struggles to score touchdowns. They're scoring field goals as well. This thing's tied up. Can Geno Smith lead the Seattle Seahawks against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense to a game-winning drive?
That remains to be seen. He hasn't done it yet. He hasn't had to. Well, we've asked him to a couple times and he hasn't done it. But they've managed to get to 6 wins without needing a last-second comeback type of thing. This is a complete team. They win with this isn't a team that has been winning by we'll just keep it close and then ask the quarterback to go win it in the end. They've been winning.
Thank goodness, because I'm kind of done with that offense.
Yeah, that was the Russell Wilson show, right? Just keep it close and let Russ play hero ball at the end of the game. And it worked for years, and it gave me more gray hair than I want to admit. But this team isn't trying to win that way. They're trying to just be good at all facets of the game and just be the better team. Now, that doesn't mean that you aren't going to end up in a close game, especially against a good team. And your quarterback does need to be able to make those plays. We haven't seen Geno do it. We've seen him fail at a couple times last year, a couple times this season. And so we'll see.
It seems like Seattle's positioned themselves. They're just a better offense right now. Like this is the best offense that Seattle has had for 3 or 4 or 5 years. I mean, Russell Wilson had decent offenses, but this is much more balanced.
Yeah.
And so Geno may not have to play hero, but I think if he's in a position to have to at this point, I think the offense is just so well oiled that and he's executing at such a high level. I do believe that he can do it. It's just a matter of having opportunities. Don't necessarily want those opportunities, but if they are pressed to do that, I think he's going to be able to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if pressed that he steps up and shows us something he hasn't shown us in terms of his ability to lead that,
and we've had variations of that. He just doesn't have that exact scenario. Yeah. But he's come back. He's scored points when we've been behind, et cetera. So.
The confidence that he is showing now is unlike anything we've seen at any other point in his career.
Yeah.
And whereas like last year when, in the games against like the Saints last year, he didn't look like he was up to the task when they gave him the ball with 4 minutes left and said, go win it. And this year you look at, especially after the pick 6 against Arizona, he came out and you could just see it. They were scoring on that next drive.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to let them not do it.
It's I like that fire that we saw against the Giants too. When we had that bad call go against us, moved us back a little bit. It was 3rd and 16, and he fired that rifle shot into Lockett and picked up the first down. and he just had that fire in his eyes. And so it's there. It just needs to.
We've never really seen that from Gino. At the other opportunities, he's just never seemed to have that confidence that he's showing this year, and he
put a team on his back.
Yeah, this is a different player. He is a different guy than what we saw last year. When he was filling in for us, or early in his career, or when he was playing for the Jets. This is a different guy, more mature, just a better player.
All right, let's get out of here.
Yeah,
enjoy the game. Like, this is going to be a fun game. It's just kind of crazy. It's one of those outlier games. It's on the NFL Network. It's early. It's going to be kind of hard to get into that, but by the second half, I'll be kind of really into it, I'm sure, and I'm hoping for the best outcome, and should be a lot of fun. All right, find Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. You can find me at NWC Hawk. You can find the show on your favorite podcast platforms, on Twitter, on YouTube. Just search Seahawks Playbook Podcast. When you get there, hit the subscribe button. We're doing 3 shows a week. Make sure you have every show into your feed, and if you like it, share it. So until next time. Go Hawks.
Gehen Falken, which is Go Hawks in German.
Nice. I'm glad you brought that out right at the end. Guten Tag.
Yep, I had that ready.
All right. See you guys. Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NWCHawk. Keith is at Myers NFL. And the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.